The other day, someone asked me how I would go about building wealth if I had to start back from square one. Like, nothing in my checking account, no investments except my monthly paycheck. Starting back over at square one is a scary thought if I were to lose it all tomorrow. But I have learned a lot about building wealth, both about what to do and what not to do. And so in this video, I'm going to be talking about what I would do if I had to start building wealth all over from scratch again. These are the steps I would take and what I would do differently the second time around to avoid mistakes that I've made, in my life so far. If you want more tips on how to build wealth and make the most of your money, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We put out new videos every Monday. And if you want to hear the full story of how I went from $40,000 in debt to building a multi-million-dollar investment portfolio, you should check out our free masterclass, which I'll link to in the description. All right, so starting over, the first thing I would do is relax. Not relax because I'm comfortable, but relax because I'm probably freaking out if this has happened. And the idea of needing to rebuild what has taken me my entire life so far to build is really daunting. So I would want to just focus on what am I going to be doing immediately. I would also want clarity about where I'm ultimately trying to go, so I may start drafting a vision, but if it felt overwhelming, I'd be like, it's okay, let me just start with what I can control right now. And that first thing that I would need to do is number 2, save money, live below my means. In order to accumulate wealth, you need to save money consistently. It sounds basic, but there is no way to build wealth if you have more money going out than you do coming in. That is building negative wealth value. So radically minimizing my expenses is the first thing I would do. This makes it easier on yourself to accumulate wealth. The bigger the gap that you can create between how much you earn and how much you spend, that is the speed at which you'll be able to accumulate wealth. So I would drastically minimize my lifestyle expenses. I would be cutting everything that wasn't truly essential, knowing that I'm doing it with the purpose of rebuilding. It will not last forever, but it's a really important season of my life, and I'm gonna do it. The next thing I would do to help me with this step is create a budget. I would develop a budget that outlines my income and my expenses. We're a big fan of the 50-30-20 model around here, which is a simpler approach to budgeting. Basically, you spend 50% of your income on necessities like groceries and housing, 30% on wants like a night out or that Hulu subscription, and you save 20%. But if I was starting over from scratch later in life, I would be trying to save more than 20%. I would be shrinking both my amount I'm spending on needs and the amount I'm spending on wants down dramatically so that I'm maximizing the amount that I'm able to save. To make this as easy as possible, I would do step number 4, I would automate my finances. I would be setting up automatic transfers from my checking account into my savings or my investment accounts. This ensures that I am paying future me first. And I'm consistently saving, taking money off the table without even giving myself the temptation to spend it, because that money is out of my checking account and I'm going to imagine it as good as gone, even though it's actually building and growing for me quietly in either a high yield savings account or invested in my investment portfolio. After I've done these steps and I've taken care of the spending part of the equation, I would start to focus on increasing my income. This is a situation I've been in before. As I was building up my first business, I needed to bring in some extra money because my first business was slow to get going. So I joined the gig economy. I used to deliver for Postmates, and this helped me generate some additional income and help me get my business off the ground. If you want to speed up your wealth building, then look for opportunities to earn more money. Side gigs, part-time jobs, or enhancing your skills so that you can get a better paying job. A higher income can lead to much more savings and really help accelerate your wealth building journey. I've actually done a full video on how to make an extra $1,000 a month, which I'll link to in the description. All right, those first 5 steps we just went over is what I would do immediately to set myself up to be able to build wealth as fast as possible. It's all about minimizing my expenses and maximizing my income so I have as much money as possible left over at the end of each month to go toward pursuing my financial goals. Now, the next few steps are about pursuing financial goals in the right order. So depending on the scenario that I find myself in, maybe it's not just that I'm starting back at zero, maybe I'm starting back where I did start, in debt. And if that's the case, I would focus on paying off my high interest rate debt as quickly as I could. I would set aside $1,000 for what I call my starter emergency fund, so that if something unexpected happens, I don't have to go into more debt in order to pay for it. After I got that $1,000 saved up, then all of my additional money is going towards paying off that high interest rate debt, such as credit cards and high interest personal loans. After the debt is paid off, then you go into step number 7. Now you build up an emergency fund. An emergency fund is like a financial safety net. It's there for when life's unexpected or unpleasant events pop up. Having a well-stocked emergency fund allows you to cover those expenses without jeopardizing your financial security. So now that my high interest rate debt is paid off, I'd be putting all of my additional savings towards saving up 3 to 6 months worth of necessary expenses. And this I'm adding to that initial $1,000 I already set aside. I'm going to just keep repeating the earlier steps on minimizing my expenses and maximizing my income, and then be putting as much money as I can towards building up that emergency fund so that I fill it up as quickly as possible. All right, the next step is to invest. Now that I've got my emergency fund, I know that any investments I make will be able to stay invested. Instead of maybe needing to pull my investments out when an unexpected emergency happens, that emergency fund is there to protect both me and my investments. So now I would be using that income that is left over at the end of each month to go towards taking care of long-term future me by saving for retirement and investing that money wisely. Getting started with investing for the first time is a whole video by itself. In fact, I think we have that video on investing for beginners, so I'll link for that in the description. But if I were starting to invest for the first time, I would put most of my money into ETFs, electronically traded funds. ETFs are a great investment option because they're bundles of different stocks and are diversified, and so they're lower risk than simply buying a single stock. Instead of needing to really know the market and try and pick a winner, you're simply buying the market returns by investing in a wide diversified portfolio. If you want to learn more about how to build a well-diversified portfolio, I will link to a video on that as well. All right, last thing I would do, and this is actually a thing I would not do, is I would avoid get-rich-quick schemes. It can be really tempting, especially when you're in a dire financial situation, to buy into something that sounds too good to be true. Building wealth is often a gradual process, and it requires discipline and patience. Now, this isn't to say that every opportunity is a bad opportunity, but I would really have my antenna up because I'm in a situation where I can't afford to lose money. I can't afford to take a big risk. And so I'm wanting to focus my efforts on things that are guaranteed to bring me income. So as you're going through the process of trying to maximize your income or maximize your investments, be skeptical of things that sound too good to be true. Make sure you do your research, vet your opportunities, and have a really clear understanding of what you're going to need to do in order to produce the promised sexy results. If you do that, you will protect the wealth that you are building. Like I said, building wealth is a lifelong process, and as you achieve different milestones and move through different stages, regularly I would be making sure that I'm reviewing my financial goals and my progress. Continuously monitor and adjust so that the strategies that I'm using have me stay on track. All right, above all else, as I was going through this process, I would remind myself to be kind to myself. Remind myself to be patient, and that my net wealth doesn't determine my value as a person. Remember, building wealth is a thing you're going to be focused on for the rest of your life. So stay focused on your goals, be disciplined in your habits, and be prepared to adapt to changing circumstances. Over time, your efforts and your investments will steadily increase your wealth. If you want to hear more about my actual wealth building journey and how I went from $40,000 of debt to building my investment portfolio, I invite you to check out our free masterclass. I will leave a link to that down in the description below. Thanks for watching.